sometimes it's rough, and it takes all that you've got, but he's been here, just waiting for you to knock, to take his hand, and plant your feet on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock.
Hi, welcome to Life on the Rock, and tonight our guest is Seery La Ruffa. She's the director of the Love and Fidelity Network. It's an educational outreach to students, college students, on marriage, family, and sexual integrity. And they're doing a great work to really inform our young people to make arguments in the culture for that defends marriage and family. So, good to have you here, Father Anthony.
Thanks, Father Mark. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, Doug couldn't make it in. He had flight trouble, so Father Anthony generously jumped up, and good to have you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah.
Right.
Doug always says that when you're missing, that you're on a secret mission. So
Right. So tonight, Doug's on a secret mission. So. But we are privileged tonight to have Crossroads with us. Every year, usually, we have a group that's walking across the country to witness to life, and it's also a big diet program, right? To lose weight, to walk from LA to I ask him that every year. You guys are walking from LA to Washington, D.C., right?
Yes, we are. And unfortunately, it's not a great diet program because we love snacking. So we began in Los Angeles on May 24th. And actually on the Santa Monica Pier so that we could do coast to coast. And we're walking the southern route. So we've gone through Arizona and New Mexico and Texas and kind of now through the deep south. And then we'll be shooting up the East Coast through the Carolinas and Virginia to Washington, D.C. And we plan to get to D.C. around August 14th or 15th, and then we'll meet up with our two other walks. One started from San Francisco and one started from Seattle. And we'll all meet up in Washington, D.C. on the 16th for kind of a big pro-life rally.
And so the total time you've put into the walk will be how much at the end?
Just under 3 months.
3 months.
We all met in LA on May 21st, and we're leaving each other on August 18th. So we'll be just under 3 months.
Now, a big part of the walk is prayer and penance, and tell us about that part of it.
Yeah. So our three pillars are prayer, sacrifice, and activism. And so as we're walking, we like to pray the rosary together, and sometimes we'll pray Divine Mercy Chaplet. We'll pray in the car before we embark on journeys to go wherever. We attend daily Mass as a group wherever we're walking through. And then also on the weekends we'll attend, we'll go to larger cities and attend Mass. We also pray morning and evening prayer together as a group, and it's nice that we're kind of based around all the prayer. And then the sacrifice, we've sacrificed our whole summers and countless things are kind of whenever we start complaining about something, our go-to response is offer it up. We just offer it up.
And that is a lot of time to spend with one another. There's probably group frictions a little bit.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we all love each other.
Do you want to get into that now? But tell us about the witness parts. And I know you had some powerful experiences with that. And I think young people witnessing for life gets everybody's attention. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Well, when you have a grassroots mission like Crossroads, what we want to do is we want to reach out to just regular people out there. We want to show people that we're young people out there with a passion and a mission. So sometimes people ask us, does opposition bother us? And of course we receive it. I mean, you will with an issue like abortion and the pro-life movement and everything like that. But it's funny because, we will have people who will give us some negative feedback as we're walking along the road, but you don't remember those things. And rather, for me, it's the group of teenage girls that pull over on the side of the road cheering and clapping for us that gives me hope in our mission that we're out there doing what we're supposed to be doing. It's the women that come up to us after Mass ready to open their hearts to forgiveness and healing from their past abortions. And, it's just those simple things. That's what we're about. We're about simplicity and the simple moments where we're just reaching out to someone. And our loud shirts allow us to do that more than anything. I mean, we're walking on the side of the road with pro-life written on our shirts.
I like the evangelical nature of it, that it's face-to-face, right? Meetings and discussions. It's not just blogging and social network.
Absolutely.
Helen, tell us how you got involved.
Yes. Well, I've always been pro-life, and I've debated with people. I realized that didn't really do that much, and I wanted to be more active. I didn't feel prepared to be a sidewalk counselor or anything like that. And then I learned about Crossroads, and it seemed perfect. All you do is walk and wear these shirts. Like, anybody could do that. So I joined. Yeah, it's not too bad. And then eventually we did talk, and it was fine. But the first weekend that we were here at LA, we were standing outside of an abortion clinic, and there were girls walking in, and we were right on the sidewalk. They were walking right past us into the door. And there were sidewalk counselors who would try to speak to them, and none of the girls stopped that day. And it was breaking my heart just to see people walking in knowing that they were going to have an abortion. And people have told me before that it seems like the pro-life, activists are always trying to force their opinions. And that's true because there are lives at stake. I don't think this is an issue where you can agree to disagree. Like, morally, I couldn't do that. So I decided that I really wanted to be a sidewalk counselor just so that I could do more to try to save those innocent lives. And in Shreveport, Louisiana, they had a session where we were trained, and we got some very good advice just about paying attention to the woman and serving her first rather than talking directly about her baby. So
some pastoral ideas of how to approach it in
yes,
a compassionate way.
And I took that to heart, and I would like to do that after Crossroads.
We better get to James here quick. We have James is from Australia, and you've done Crossroads in Australia. What's it like being in America on Crossroads?
It's great to start with. In some ways, it's very similar to Crossroads in Australia. I think that speaks to the universality of the church in a lot of ways, that I can come over here and be amongst Catholics and the pro-life movement and feel like I'm completely at home in the movement here. But in some ways it is very different in that Australia is a less hospitable environment for pro-lifers. We get less support and I guess more heckling in Australia. So that's unfortunate. And also in Australia, there's less recognition of what the term pro-life means. So whereas here, most people know what the term means, and most will be with us, but some will be against us. In Australia, it takes on a lot more of an education role, in that we find ourselves explaining to people about the abortion issue and why we're walking with bright pro-life shirts on. And so in that way, we're really privileged to be able to play that role in Australian culture.
Okay, great. And James, we'll give you the last word. What motivates you to do this walk?
I gotta say, my family back at home, my dad raised me, and his example is what keeps me going.
Right. It's great to see two young men strong in the Lord doing a good walk. Your presence is important out there. So
thank you.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with Seery La Ruffa, so don't go away. We'll be back in a moment. Hi, welcome back. Tonight our guest is Seery La Ruffa from the Love and Fidelity Network, the director of the Love and Fidelity Network. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And what's exciting for me to see all the different movements in the church and the creativity, different approaches to get out some aspect of the gospel message. And you all are taking very much an academic, intellectual approach. And at Princeton, right? That's where it started?
That's right. Yes, we started, it's the Love and Fidelity Network actually grew from a student group at Princeton back in 2005, a group of Princeton undergrads, some of whom were friends, some came together in other ways, looked around them and realized that, there was only one message coming from all directions on matters concerning human sexuality. So, and they observed this in the hookup culture with the pain that all their peers were experiencing through that. They observed it as well with the alienation that those students who were choosing not to participate in the hookup culture were feeling because that was such the dominant social structure. And they also felt it, with the college administration, which, intentional or not, sent a message from day one at freshman orientation, and this isn't unique to Princeton, but at freshman orientation, students show up and they attend a play which has the good message or the good intention of trying to educate students about sexual assault, but actually what it does is it sends the message that casual sex is totally normal, and if you're not having lots of casual sex on campus, there's something wrong with you and you're not really fulfilling your college experience. So for all these reasons, this group of students, got together and formed a student group, and they called themselves the Anscombe Society after the philosopher Elizabeth Anscombe, she was in England, did a lot of work on Catholic sexual ethics. So they say, and she was sort of a very modern woman and smoking cigars and a monocle and all of this. So they took her on as a mascot, in a sense. And they decided that they were going to offer their peers an alternative message to what they were hearing about sexuality and marriage and the family. So what sort of started as a response to the hookup culture at Princeton then grew because you mentioned that it's a big deal when people notice when young people are wearing big pro-life shirts. Well, people also notice when young people are talking about sexual integrity, right? When they're talking about the importance of abstinence before marriage and fidelity within marriage. People notice. So when the Anscombe Society was formed, it did receive a lot of national attention, and so students from all over were contacting those students saying, "How do we do this on our campus? We want to do this, where we are too." But of course, those students, in addition to running their student group, also had to be full-time students, and so weren't able to devote all the time they would have wanted to helping their peers at other schools. And then my colleague Cassandra Huff, then DeBenedetto, when she graduated, she formed Love and Fidelity Network to help translate this Anscombe Society model to other schools.
Wow, that's a lot of history. And I find it interesting too, your approach, you're careful in the language you choose, and because you're trying to make a rational argument for this, right? We're not using even or gospel language here because people shut us out immediately. So, well, you Catholics, that's good for you. But you are saying reason, right, dictates that.
That's right. So we come at these issues of marriage, family, and sexual integrity from all different angles, but different disciplines within academia. Right. Because, as you mentioned, yes, people can very often just shut off the conversation and say, well, your religious tradition doesn't apply to me. But also because, we've found that the students are getting what seem to be some very compelling academic reasons and arguments on the other side from their professors, from just sort of it's sort of in the cultural DNA. A lot of these misconceptions and sort of facts that we think we know, you know, oh, gender is a social construct, or casual sex doesn't have any bearing later in life.
And maybe even more important than the actual teaching or an authority figure saying something, but just the message you get from our art, the media.
Very true.
I know some TV shows today showing young people giving just permission to do whatever, right? Indulge in whatever.
Very true.
Yeah.
So our generation has grown up with exactly that,
Yeah.
with it being normal and to behave in a certain way and to experience no consequences. But in truth, there are consequences.
Hollywood's not good at showing the consequences.
No, they're not. They don't. They don't make for as cheerful films and TV when that's the case. So we do try to then equip these students just to present that information to their peers so that they can be truly free to make decisions based then on having the full picture of information and having the balanced debate where it's otherwise one-sided.
And it highlights a necessary aspect of our faith, that it is reasonable. We speak of divine reason, and God created the world in an orderly way, and so the gospel message appeals to us as fully human beings, and to our reason, and appeals to faith in us. So it's so important to make those arguments, and especially when we start talking about government's involvement and its regulations and laws, civil laws and things, that we're saying the natural law binds everybody. It's not just Catholics who can't take human life, right? It's everybody. And so we say there's certain principles about marriage, right, that apply to all. How do you make that argument to a young person today? We're in this great struggle now to defend traditional marriage. How do you make that argument?
That's a great question. First of all, in love.
Yeah.
Secondly, focus on the children, right? Because that's what it really comes down to. That's why our government cares about marriages in the first place, right? The government doesn't care about regulating friendships or roommateships or whatever it might be, but they do care about marriage because it has to do with children. And the government, the state does have an interest in the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
So focusing on the needs of children, I think, is the best place to start. Because not only do children, over and over again, it's shown that children do best when they are raised in the home of their married biological mother and father. But, children have this desire to know and be known by, and to love and be loved by the parents that brought them into this world.
Right.
So I think that, that's I think the strongest appeal you can make. Of course, our students approach the issue as well from the area of natural law, and they will speak about the importance of the complementarity and why why if you remove gender complementarity, the rest of the norms around the institution of marriage in terms of restricting it to a number or making it a lifelong commitment just no longer makes sense.
Right.
So those are sort of the academic approaches that are often taken, but that's not the only way. There's just showing the beauty of marriage and talking about marriage as the beauty of it.
Right.
I think goes a long way as well for the students. Even tapping into the desire that most young people today have of marrying someday. We sort of say, oh, marriage is so out of fashion with young people and they keep delaying it and all of this. But the truth is that young people today still, by and large, in overwhelming numbers, want to get married, and they crave that.
Yeah, it's something written in our nature, and the culture can never eradicate that. That's always going to come back to the surface. And something interesting we see on the show more and more is, groups that have different kind of apostolates with young people, reaching out to young people. Oftentimes there's some kind of family that's involved, that young people might gather at their house or have a meal, And it's so nourishing, and it's like reminds them of the goal, right, and what family's about, and reassuring to them that this is still possible, right? Because in our media world, all the time the romantic comedies show kind of the excitement of the dating, the courtship, whatever, but they fail to show the married part, really. They don't show it well when they do. So we need that witness, right? There's this evangelical character of marriage and family. Let's talk about, in some articles I know you all write about, that the sexual revolution hasn't actually empowered women. What has been the effect on women?
Sure. Well, where to start, I think, is the real question there. But there have been a lot of articles that have come out in the last couple of years, sort of claiming that the sexual revolution, in particular the hookup culture, is in fact empowering to women because it allows them to, behave the way that men behave, and all of this. It's completely untrue. First of all, women are more likely to suffer. They're just biologically more susceptible to contracting STDs. They're obviously the ones that are more, they're the only ones that can get pregnant, and in spite of the fact that much of my generation has forgotten that babies and sex are connected. For some reason, this seems to have just escaped our conscience as a generation. Women still, do, and then they, suffer the effects then either through, having to raise a child out of wedlock, or, unfortunately, many of these women, of course, turn to abortion and suffer hugely as a result of that. On just sort of an immediate on-campus effect, you see, very, very too busy psychologist's office and offices, and most is not true, but many women are on medication, really suffering from a lot of anxiety and depression. They're of course more vulnerable to sexual assault in this sort of culture, and really in this world where we've separated sex and marriage and procreation, when we've separated all of those things, women do lose out in the mating market. Researchers like Catherine Pacolic at Ave Maria and Mark Rignaris at the University of Texas at Austin have done a lot of work on this and sort of shown how women really lose out in trying to find someone to date and marry in these situations.
Yeah, how did you describe it? If you had like two groups, describe those two groups.
Sure. So what I'm referring to at the moment is the work largely by the Austin Institute, with whom Dr. Mark Rignaris is a fellow. I would encourage folks to watch a video on YouTube called "The Economics of Sex." It's like a 10-minute, very well done video. But basically, what it explains is, with the introduction of oral contraception, that sort of split this dating market in half. So it used to be that the market for sex and the market for marriage were integrated. But now, since you can, have sex without worrying, supposedly without worrying about conceiving, those markets are separated, and by and large, more women than men are looking for marriage at any given time, and more men than women are looking just for a casual sexual relationship at any given time. So what ends up happening is, in the market where there are fewer women, so the casual market, the women do call the shots, but in the other market, the men call the shots because they can take their time. They can be choosy. There's a lot fewer of them.
And we hear that complaint a lot. I mean, they say, I can't find a good man to marry.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of complaining about, men won't commit. But there's a line in this video that points out, in fact, it's not that men are afraid of commitment. It's just that they have so much choice and so much power in that market. It's really unfortunate. I mean, essentially, for young people today, sex has become the price of entry into the dating pool. which is just it's very unfortunate for young men and young women that would just, that have a commitment to wait.
Right, and I mean today politically we hear this thing about the war on women, and if you dare to to try not to provide contraceptives or whatever, it's somehow attacking women. But the sexual revolution, women have suffered more, and I think emotionally too. I mean, the sex is such a powerful thing; it can be so unitive, and then if it's a hookup culture, you're tearing that asunder. I know as a priest hearing confessions and things, if you have a young person that's in that hookup culture, sometimes I just have this overwhelming sense of, sex is so powerful, and you're just so not ready. This is just so overwhelming for you, and we're not giving our young people that message. You turn on the TV, you get the exact opposite of that. So.
It's very true. It's a big deal, and and no one's telling the next generation that. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No.
I was just wondering, Caitlin, do you find in the young people, even though they're fed all the lies or the deception, do you find when you speak with them that the truth resonates with them, or that in their very heart of hearts they know what you're saying and they're hungering for that?
It does. It's very true. And actually, one of so I mentioned that some of these articles have come out recently saying, "Oh, women are so empowered by the hookup culture." Well, one of the bits of basically faulty methodology in this research that's been done to show supposedly that women are so empowered is that they take women and talk to them in a very public setting where they have to sort of put on a brave face. But researchers have found when they actually sort of take women aside and talk to them one-on-one, in a private setting that's anonymous, of course it resonates, right? Of course they're dissatisfied with the hookup culture. And actually you find, it used to be, I suppose, maybe when I started college that you couldn't question the hookup culture. It was wildly popular and it was a great thing. I think now, even the people that are participating in it know that something's missing. They know that there's hurt. They know they're dissatisfied. They just can't quite put their finger on what, or they end up thinking there's something wrong with me, instead of there's something wrong with all of this around me. So I think that's a big part of it. And they also just are then afraid of the alternative. It's daunting to try to come away from something like that.
Sure. Because they can use that culture maybe to foster, in their hope, to foster a real relationship, but they're not getting that. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think there is a lot of hope that relationships might form in this way, when in fact, that's by and large not usually the case.
Right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Caitlin La Ruffa, so don't go away. Back in a moment. Welcome back. Caitlin, let's talk about the practical aspects of the Love and Fidelity Network and the things you all do.
Sure. So our biggest thing that we do is a conference that takes place every November. This year it's November 7th and 8th in Princeton, which it's a Friday night through all day Saturday, called Sexuality, Integrity in the University. And this is our 7th year running this conference. We have a very exciting lineup this year with Dr. Michael Pacaluk, Dr. Scott Stanley, Dr. William Hurlbut from, let's see, respectively, Ave Maria, Denver, and Stanford. So some really great researchers in this field, and those are just I'm naming a couple. We also have an Oscar-nominated short film. The director of this, or producer of this film, who's going to be joining us. It was a film showing the beauty of marriage through art, called Head Over Heels. It's going to be this great conference. We bring together about 300 primarily students, but also some recent alumni and other folks that then in turn work with students on campus to Princeton, New Jersey, and it's right on Princeton's campus.
And what do you hope the students take away from a conference like that?
So with a conference like that, we want primarily to equip them with the arguments and some of the best research that's out there, in this case about friendship, cohabitation, sort of the medical side of what's going on, as well as just to inspire them by bringing them all together and giving them then that sort of oomph to be able to go and take this message back to their campuses.
And I have to say, I was just watching some speeches or talks by Ryan T. Anderson, who works with you all, and I felt inspired. You know, it's just it gives you confidence to have somebody that's developed a well-reasoned argument for the teaching on marriage and why the church. He wasn't talking about the church, but it's basically what the church teaches, and it gives you hope, right? That we have truth behind us, and there's hope in that, and it starts to resonate with people, doesn't it?
Very true. Yeah. It's true. You know, if what the church teaches and what we believe is true, then the best science, the best philosophy should back it up.
Right.
You know, there shouldn't be anything to be afraid of in that regard. So that's what we hope to do.
So you come at it from social sciences, from the medical perspective, from philosophy, academic research, and they go out ready to go back to their college campuses and.
They do, and hopefully they've made a few new friends along the way and connections. So they then go back and throughout the year host events, sometimes bringing in speakers similar to Ryan or the other speakers that'll be at the conference. To host public lectures at their universities, very often on questions that are of interest to the student body at large. 18 to 22-year-olds want to know about dating. They have questions about sex and marriage and how it all works. And so these topics are interesting. So they'll attract students to these lectures. Often drawing upwards of 100 students to these sorts of lectures. And then they'll also host smaller discussions. Some of the groups have put together a panel at the beginning of their years about the hook perspectives on the hookup culture. One school did this this past year, and they just had different perspectives. Some were abstinent, some were abstinent after sort of withdrawing from the hookup culture, and another was a different perspective, but that still had some reservations about the hookup culture. So it was a genuine conversation with different sides to it, but where they invited freshmen in particular to come and just hear from upperclassmen what was going on campus. And other groups have, especially around Valentine's Day, done things like give out roses to people, while other groups are giving out condoms. And which one do you want?
Right.
A rose is
You've
nice.
mentioned friendship a couple times. I would think that's a fruit of a conference too. You can make friends, get connected with one another. What do you all tell the young people about friendship?
Well, so the foundation of any good relationship, sort of romantic or not, is friendship. Right. But I think we've seen a decline on campus in real, genuine friendship because everything has become so over-sexualized, and even within the same gender, people then have questions about feelings of deep friendship. Are they deep friendship, or are they something else? Does it mean something different? And I think this sort of very sexualized campus culture has really made it hard for people to experience friendship. But there's such a desire for that, right? I mean, who doesn't go to college hoping that they'll meet their best friends for life on campus? So we're hoping this year, that's why one of our speakers will be speaking in particular about friendship at the national conference, because it's a conversation that we want to make sure happens. And
the Catechism, in a section on chastity, talks about the importance of friendship. and I guess to live it out and how it fosters a healthy friendship. Especially like if you're talking about a courting situation, like the couple can get to know each other, where the sex stuff can get in and really overpower it early, but you develop a friendship first, right?
It's very true, and I'm going to forget the particular researcher's name, but there have been articles just in the last 2 weeks of people coming out and saying, you know, not necessarily people who agree with us on anything else, but who have found that the determining factor in really the success of a marriage is the strength of the friendship between the spouses. That is, you know, the end all be all. And so if you're you know, clouding, you know, a friendship with you know, bringing sex into the picture too early, you really do inhibit the possibility for, you know, genuine friendship. Exactly.
And I think this has been the struggle for the church in dealing with the whole divorce, remarriage, or annulment issue, is the emphasis on the time that that couple needs to take to get to know one another and to establish the bond of friendship. So many times when you're dealing with a divorced person, they really are regretting, or the pain is there that they didn't have that bond, or the I wish I would have married my friend kind of attitude is what they're bringing to a counselor or a priest.
And even to maintain it right after the marriage, like with date nights, and to continue to romance your wife kind of thing and develop that. Well, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back with Caitlin La Ruffa, so don't go away. Back in a moment. Welcome back. Now, Caitlin, you all also have a leadership seminar you offer, and we hear so much of that too. We're trying to, so many movements are trying to form leaders to go back to wherever they're from and to make disciples, right? Tell us about your leadership
That's
seminar.
right. So we actually just started hosting a leadership seminar, even though we've been around and we've been working with students for 7 years. We just last summer really discovered this need to bring the leaders who were ready to go back to their campuses in the year, to bring them together in the summer for a time of intensive practical training, as well as training in arguments, and as well as a great networking opportunity for them to get to know one another. You know, over a 4-day period where, you know, they're all staying in a dorm together, they're eating all their meals together, and just getting to know one another, because it can often feel so isolating to be on these campuses. You know, especially some of the, you know, liberal, secular, elite universities, it can be very intimidating and isolating. So, to help these students realize they have a real community in a way that it's harder when you're in a large setting to foster a new community unto itself. So this seminar, actually, we had our second one just wrap up 2 weeks ago. A huge success, a lot of new energy going. We actually had 2 students from 2 universities in Mexico that are teaming up to form a group, sort of a combined group there, and a young woman who's ready to start a group at UChicago, and some new work at UCLA.
And that would be considered like part of the Love and Fidelity Network?
That's right. So all these student groups, there's, you know, give or take 25, depending on the day of the week, universities have groups. Many of them are called the Anscombe Society, after the original, but others have taken names like Off the Hook, or True Love Revolution, or Love Revealed, and different sorts of names that you know, take on the character that these groups you know, feel best suits their own campus, since each campus is very unique.
Right.
So from this leadership seminar, you know, the students get to know us. They get to learn you know, from some of the top researchers, again, you know, in the field. as well as sort of the hands-on toolkit of how to go, be this voice on campus. And we get to know them too. That personal relationship matters so much. You mentioned friendship before. And that's actually one of the really beautiful things that has come out of this. When I think to the students that were at our seminar last summer, they're kids that I still keep in touch with on a pretty regular basis.
Right.
Which is, even though many of them have graduated already.
And what kind of resources do you give them? Do you recommend books or websites? Or?
We do. So first we would point them to our own website, loveandfidelity.org. We have a resource library there that is full of articles and things that we are just constantly curating and trying to put there, so that, if you need a resource on, click cohabitation or pornography, you can just search by category or search by discipline and check that out. We also have all
that's loveandfidelity.org.
That's right,
okay.
loveandfidelity.org, all spelled out. We then have, we also have videos from all of our past conferences. They're hour-long lectures, so it's great to put it on in the background while you're cooking or doing laundry or something else. So those are really informative. So we'd first, point students there. There's a handful of books that we certainly encourage folks to read. What is Marriage is one of them. Adam and Eve After the Pill is
The first one's by Ryan Anderson.
Ryan Anderson, Robert George, and Sharif Girgis.
Okay.
Then After the Pill, or Adam and Eve After the Pill by Mary Eberstadt. She kind of lays out just the fallout of the sexual revolution. She also has another interesting book called How the West Really Lost God. And it sort of turns the thesis that first we lost, the church, and then the family fell apart on its head, and actually sort of says the family actually started falling apart, and that is how we ended up with, emptier pews. So that's an interesting, that's a very interesting read as well. I would point them to the Austin Institute's website and Scott Stanley's blog, Sliding versus Deciding. So I could go on, I won't go on. But lots of really great resources that I would point students to. But then what we're able to do besides say, hey, check out this website, is work with students one-on-one. Oh, you have this particular topic that you want addressed on your campus, and it needs to be from this particular angle. Okay, let me help you research. Let me sit down at my computer and look at my library and see who I can recommend. And fortunately, over the last 7+ years, we've gotten to know a lot of these experts personally, and so we're able to then facilitate those connections.
Have you heard any good stories, maybe about like a new openness with the administration or big professors on campus?
It's a good question. I think
it's a tough nut to crack.
It is a tough nut to crack, but one thing that is really good that I do think most of the administrators are well intentioned. At all of these schools, is that our students don't go in as adversaries to these schools or to the administration or the powers that be. They really go in as their friend, right? They're trying to help the university be the best that it can be and serve its mission, right? Of fostering debate, of being a place where ideas can come into competition and come into conversation with one another. So our students are able to point that out to the administrators that they're simply trying to enter the conversation and create a dialogue on campus. So I think that administrators are very open to hearing those sorts of messages, as well as they don't want to alienate any of their student population. They do genuinely care about their students.
And that is so key to evangelization, is tapping into the goodwill of the other person to build upon that. That is so essential. What about other people that want to get involved? Maybe they're not students. How can they help this movement?
Sure. Well, I'm glad you asked. There's a lot of ways. Fortunately, we actually have recently started a program called Friends of Love and Fidelity, where we are inviting everyone to join our network. And you can become a friend through a $15 donation, and we'll give you a magnet for your refrigerator. They're I think they're pretty great. But you can be a friend of Love and Fidelity. But we've realized that the schools that flourish best, these student groups that do the best, are the ones that have a network of support right around them, in addition to the wider Love and Fidelity network. So for folks that are alumni of particular schools, or parents, or live near particular schools, we are trying to build up communities around these schools. We've seen this be incredibly successful at Princeton and at Stanford, and we would love to build that up. So, in addition to going to our website and clicking Become a Friend, where we can give you a magnet and keep you updated about everything that we do, if you're genuinely interested in, being a community supporter or an alumni supporter of any of the student groups that we work with, let us know. You can email info@loveandfidelity.org, and we'd love to start that conversation.
And as we mentioned before, families have such a role in this new evangelization to model good family life. It's a model of a school of the gospel, what we see in a family. So if you can draw close to a young person in college and walk with them, you can witness to them from your vocation in such an extraordinary way. Because that's, so, like you said, so many young people are called to marriage, and they want that in their hearts. Do you think there's any parallel, and I ask this question from the perspective of hope, the hope that we have. Is there a parallel with the pro-life movement, how we see that turning and growing among young people? Is there the hope for teaching on marriage and chastity?
Definitely. I absolutely think there is. 40 years ago, the pro-life movement did look a lot like what the marriage movement looks like at the moment, which is to say everyone knew that sooner or later all the folks who were pro-life were going to just die out, and then everyone would realize that abortion was great and da-da-da. Well, look around, right? Is this true? No. But that's because the young people recognize, the truth about human life, but people made the arguments, and they did the research, and they science was really on our side there with the sonogram and everything. And so I think the same thing will be true here, especially as young people start becoming parents themselves. They'll really start to recognize just how essential a mother and a father are for their children, and how different mothers and fathers are. Right. And so I think there is hope, because it is true.
And what motivates you? We got like a couple minutes left. You're newly married, about 3 months married, and what is your motivation? I mean, you could run off into the sunset and be happy ever after now, right? But you're still working away.
She is happy ever after.
Yeah, this is my happy ever after. That's a great question. I mean, for me, it really is a heart for all the destruction that we've seen at a number of different levels, from the fallout of the sexual revolution, and a desire to play a part in reversing that. Right. So that's.
I think that is a special call to young people. If you want to be part of a movement, if you want to sacrifice for something greater than yourselves, if you want a mission, this is a battle. I mean, this is a real struggle. Doug's not here to say it tonight, so we're going to say it for him. But it's definitely an uphill struggle, and the culture just seems to be collapsing on these issues. And young people have such a vital role, right? They are an engine for change in any culture, in any time. They're the ones who will give themselves without abandon and really further a movement. And they're inspiring to me when I see young people like yourself in the movement. So.
Well, thank you. And I would say that I'm hugely inspired by the students that we work with. I have actually the comfortable role of working mostly with them. And these students are the ones that then have to go and make the arguments on campus, and they're tremendously brave, and they put their name on controversial op-eds in the paper. They host conferences about marriage at Stanford of all places. They all sorts of really, really heroic things on campus, that I'm just inspired every day by what they do.
Right. Amen. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Father.
And maybe this week, Father, if you could give us a blessing to take us out here.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, show his face to you and be merciful to you, turn his countenance to you and give you peace. May Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.